basically in this practice session, what I would be doing is a creation of a VNET, subnet, NSG, and pip and virtual machine. For this particular exercise, you would require a Azure account. It's obviously, if you have a debit card or credit card, you can create it. It's a free account, anyone can create it. And Terraform is installed on your laptop or a virtual machine, wherever you wanted to test it out. And I recommend to go through the previous practice session. That will obviously help. So this particular bed. So what all the things we require is these many resources we require it. VNets, subnets, NSG, pip, and virtual machine. So what when you should have IDE. So I'll copy my provider.txt. From the scratch, I will write it over here so that you can follow it. So here, this is a tf_az.vm for this particular session, this particular folder. I have copied the provider.tf from my older project. So here, Terraform works with the providers. Using provider itself, it interacts with the Azure. So in this case, this particular provider name is Azure RM. The source code is there in HashiCarp registry. So I would be using this particular version, and this provider name is Azure RM. For each provider, in order to authenticate and to authorize, so there should be some mechanism. In this case, I would be using a service principal. I've created already a service principal. I'll just show you guys. I had created this particular service principal earlier itself. So if you don't know how to create it, I will pass the link to you guys. Okay, just click on new secret and you should be able to create it. So all this data, you need to put it over here. Main is a subscription ID, wherever you are wanted to create it. Tenant ID, you can get it, your tenant ID, where exactly. I mean, you can, if you click on EAD overview, you should be able to get it, all these details. Okay, and the application ID is also here itself. Okay, this only the client secret. You can go to secret. You should be able to. It will when you create it, then only it will show this particular value. You should note it down. But note that you should not check in your code to any of the repositories. This is a secret. If someone gets hold of this, then your cost of Azure would increase like a hell, right? So better, I would suggest, once you do the practice session, delete it off, this particular line. Okay. So after this session, I will delete my secret itself so that no one can use it. So yeah, so this is the main bit. This is required for interaction between Terraform and Azure. Okay, so now what I would require is in the VNet resource I would require, right? So in order to create a VNet, what you guys need to do is just Google it out, VNet Azure Terraform. Click on the first bit. 1 second. So first, whatever you get it, so that you can copy it. This is Azure Virtual Network code. Okay. So this, what you can do is right click, file, new. Just name it as the main.tf. TF stands for a Terraform. All the Terraform recognize based on .tf itself. So whatever you write in .tf, it reads it automatically. So hence you would need to create your file with the .tf extension. Okay. So in order to create it, just take this and let us create one resource group as well, because in the resource group we need to keep all our detail. I'm just session 2 RJ. I'll give the same name for, I'll give the same region name. Just note that whatever location you are into, use the same location. Just give a proper name, meaningful name. Let us give the same thing. Here, if you see, virtual network requires a resource group where exactly it has to be deployed. So what we would be doing is the location of virtual network would be where exactly Azure resource group would be created. The same it would be using it. In order to back referencing it, I can code it here itself as a virtual West Europe. But if I wanted to change it to something else, you need to change in number of places. Rather than that, you can refer it one place, so that one place you can change it, and across it would be modified. So in this way, if you could see here, this value would be filled with resource group this particular name. Okay. So if you see here, if you click on this particular name, it will pick this value at a runtime. So let us, as part of this is a name, this is location, this is a resource group name. Address space for any VNet, you need to give a particular address space name. This is if you have a separate DNS server, that particular IP address you need to provide it. I'm just giving a dummy bit. So you can create a subnet inside this particular resource group stanza itself, but I would prefer it to be in a separate place. So hence I would be knocking out this particular bit. Tagging is basically any tag is used basically in order to differentiate for the cost and all this bit, right? So I would suggest to put a cost for your resources, since it is a demo. So I'll keep it as a demo itself. Yeah, it is just a name. Okay. So next, what we would require is a subnet, right? So what you could do is just search for a subnet. If you search, note that this is a registry.terraform.io. It is the official documentation of Terraform. Okay. So click on here. So Azure subnet, Azure RM subnet is that. Then also, I mean, if by any chance you are coding, first you have coded it and taken a break, right? In that case also, what you could do is search it subnet Azure and Terraform. So anyone, I hope anyone can type it, basic bit. Then it will take you, I mean, the first link itself, if you click on that, it will take you to Azure Subnet, right? So Azure Subnet, as you could see, I don't want to club it in Azure network itself. That is the reason I would be coding it separately. So let me take this particular bit. Maximize it. So this is the Azure subnet. So let us name it accordingly. Okay. So resource group. So as I said earlier, reference to the resource group name, right? So virtual network, right? So you need to a subnet resides in a virtual network. So what you need to do is give a reference here. Okay. So if you see here, it will use this particular name in this particular variable. Okay. So let us not add any of the delegation. This is for a basic bit, it is not required. In next session, probably I'll explain you about it, why exactly it is required. So next, what we would require is a subnet is over. Then what we would require is a NSG, right? So same fashion, Azure NSG. Search it, you'll get that bit. Okay. So for NSG, as I told you in the other earlier, so on it's an entry point for any of the resources. So here you need to give what exactly you wanted. This is a specific rule you would be giving it. Star dot star, it's basically everything, right? So I would make it as a 22 port. For the sake of it, I'll keep it as star. But ideally, you should give only the port which you wanted to do it. As a update task, I will add only 22 port, and I'll show you that. So as of now, let us keep it completely open. So NSG. For each resource, there will be a name, location, and resource group. For a NSG, would be you can mention it as inbound rule or outbound rule. You can mention it like this as well, and you can keep it this one outside as well. So next bit is this is you need to associate network security group with your subnet. So for that reason, this particular piece of code you need to write. So just I will say, you need to remember that each resource, the naming here, whatever we give, it should be a unique on that particular folder. Okay. So we would be using this particular subnet. Hence, we would be giving a reference here. Subnet ID, what we would be using is from here. Okay. So security group, that association, I would be doing it right over here. So this particular resource, what it will do is it will associate this subnet with this particular network security group. Okay. So next, what we would require is a public IP and a virtual machine. Okay. So public IP. So yeah, take this bit. We would be using same resource groups and same resource group location. Static, you can mention dynamic as well, but again, it depends on you. So I will keep it as a demo. Okay, so now what we would require is a virtual machine. Okay, so virtual machine. Note that it's a second, first link is a add actually basically. Second one is the actual Terraform resource. So note that you would get Azure virtual machine as well as you would be seeing Azure Windows virtual machine and Linux virtual machine. 1 second, where is it? Yeah, Azure Linux virtual machine. So you can create using this one as well, this particular resource. But this resource is getting deprecated. So means in coming the probably next 6 months or something like that, this particular resource will be deprecated. They will give us Terraform will give enough warning. So hence I would suggest they are forked from Azure virtual machine to a specific on a OS flavor. That's the reason they have created a Azure RM Linux virtual machine and Azure RM Windows virtual machine. So depending on your requirement, use that particular resource. In this case, I would be using a Linux virtual machine. So what we would be doing is I haven't created a nick. Okay, my mistake. Because here itself it showed me, so that is the reason I corrected my mistake. Okay, so I would be copying in this particular example. They have given completely all the details itself, the resource group, VNet. I could have gone to directly to here and copy pasted it, but as a beginner, you would be you won't be understanding it how exactly if you get a requirement to create only virtual network, then you would be needing to create only that bit, right? So that is the reason I went by step by step. So in this case, we would require 2-bit. 2-bit I would be copying it. That is a virtual, Azure RM network interface and our Linux virtual machine. So I'll paste it at the bottom. Okay, so just let me see it. Okay, I have not added it. Okay, so when I see name, you need to give it. So location, we would be referring from resource group. Resource group name, that also we are, I mentioned it over here. So IP configuration. So here what we need to do is subnet IP. Subnet, we need to mention it. NIC should have association with the subnet, right? Subnet IP. And let us name our VM as well. There are few resources, it won't take underscore, hyphen is required. Okay, for a virtual machine, I do remember. We can't give underscore. So as usual, resource group, we would be picking from there, location as well. So now coming back to here. So Nick, let us use this, right? So here, if I go through one by one, this size, we need to pick a particular size, which one we wanted to use it. So this particular is a username, admin username, with which user you wanted to log in. This is a NIC interface. It is a you can use username and password as well, but it's a bad practice. Rather than that one, you should create your own private key and public key. So I'm having my public key here. So what it will do is, once it is created, it will put in authorization file on the virtual machine that my particular public key. So using without my private key and with my private key, I would be able to do a SSH. So always better go for this bit. So the last bit is source image reference. So our virtual machine should be off from where exactly it has to be picked up. Who's the publisher, and what is the OS bit, and what is the SKU we are using it. Any specific version you wanted to use, you can mention that. So I would be using Oracle Linux. So I'm just copy pasting it. So this is basically, you can get it from over the internet, as well as if you try to create a virtual machine, and it will it will allow you to download the templates, right? So from templates also you can get it, these details. Okay, so I would be going for, rather than standard, I will go for second. I've already tested this particular bit, so I will be using less cost. It is very per month, it's $4 or something like that. That particular B1 LS, I'm using it because I don't want you guys to get billed a huge amount. So this is $4 per month. So yeah, negligible amount. Okay. So it is per hour per day billing. So once you do it, then you can delete it off. Okay. So this many resources it has created. It would create it. So I'll run it through again. First is resource group, then virtual network. Under virtual network, subnet would be there, and then NSG, and there is a NSG and a subnet association, bridge between NSG and subnet. This piece of a code, and then it's a public IP, and here it is a network interface, and here it is a virtual machine. Note that this particular network interface, I have created a public IP, but I haven't associated it. So that bit I need to do it now. So let us search for Azure network interface. Click here. So basically for public, you need to add another one code, one piece of a variable. So if you could see here, this bit is required. It's optional. Reference to a public IP in order to associate with this particular name. So what you need to do is just copy this bit, put it over here, just put equals, and refer your public IP resource copy dot session dot ID. With the use of IDE, these are all the things you would get it. Otherwise, you need to manually type it. It is a bit difficult. So with a quick command, you can do that. Dot session dot ID, right? It makes your life easy. So that is the reason you should use your one IDE. So as I told you earlier, so let us do first command. What we need to run is Terraform. If you could see here, I have only main.tf and provider.tf. Only two files are present. Okay. So once we do init, so what it does is it goes to the registry, pulls out HashiCarp Azure RM module, and downloads it in our local directory. It will let us run it now. Terraform init. So if you see here, it is trying to install the version what I mentioned over here. It will go to the internet, it will go to the Terraform registry and picks this particular module. If you see here, Terraform has successfully initiated it, successfully initialized it. Basically what it did was it downloaded this particular provider. So if you do ls, so if you could see here, .terraform, it has created it. See here, .terraform, providers, registry, Terraform, HashiCarp, Azure RM, and the version whatever we have given it. So this is the code which we, using that bit, it will interact with Azure. Okay, so let us run our Terraform plan. So what it does is it's a dry run. The code what we have written it, and it will check against my Azure account, and it will tell me how much it has to create it. If you see here, the plan 8 resource it has to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. So basically it will create a VNet, association, subnet, whatever we have mentioned it basically. So all those resources it would be created. So let us now go to our next command, apply. Apply is the one which actually creates it. Apply will also show you and it will caution you saying that you wanted to proceed or not. So what you need to do is you need to press enter. The same thing it will create it. So you need to provide yes as the answer. If you other than yes, if you enter, it will it won't do it. Okay. So if you could see here, resource group, it has only 2. Okay. It doesn't have anything. I've deleted it. So let us go back here. It is creating all this bit. Let us give it a couple of 30 to 40 seconds or a couple of minutes. We'll see how it goes. Okay. If you are doing it manually, and it will take at least some 5 to 10 minutes probably. But why we use infra as a code is if you're planning to create the same infrastructure for higher environment, it's a one-time investment in terms of code. So you code it and you can run it in n number of environments with little bit modification. You could see it has created multiple creation complete. If you could see, public IP is created, so it will show details. So VNet is also completed after 5 seconds. And another thing, so the code what we have written it automatically Terraform understands it, and depending on hierarchy, it deploys, creates the specific resources. So if you see here, creation complete after 1 minute 48 seconds. It took 1 minute, roughly 1.5 minutes, not 1.5 minutes, nearly 2 minutes in order to create it. Okay, so if you create resources are added. Let us go back to our portal. This is beginner academy portal. So let us go to resource group. Yeah, here you could see earlier I showed you only 2 were there. So now third one is created, our session, this particular session. If you could see here, all these resources are created now. Okay, VNets and this particular virtual machine as well. Okay, so now what we would be doing is it is still booting up. Let us give a couple of seconds. Let us give a try logging in. Maximum what will happen, it won't allow us to log in. So if you remember correctly, in order to log into that particular box, we need to give IP address and the username. So username, admin user, I had given it, not given it, just a copy paste basically. So yeah, so on this looks to be active. So let us enter. Yeah, so now we have logged into the virtual machine what we have created just now. So if you could see uptime, yeah, it is up from last 3 minutes. Okay, so in this way we can create a particular virtual machine and we can log in. Okay, so there, if you see here, I had allowed it is warning, right? it is allowing me to, it is default, it is open. So you should not do that. In the meantime, I sort it out. If anyone has a question, they can ask. Unmute yourself and you can ask.
Hi, Sangamish.
Hi.
This private and public key pair, right? We have to generate it before adding it to here in the configuration, like key through keygen.
That's right. You should create it. Create a private certificate. Private and public. When you create a private and public certificate, it will create two files. One is a public certificate. If I go to that particular path, if you could see here, this is my private key and this is my public key. When you create that particular certificate, it will create two files for you. One is a private key and another one is a public key. So that bit you need to create it. Or you can use username and a password as well, but it is not advised, because a user, if someone catch holds of your password, then they can access it. Hope you got my answer.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Sangamish, on top of that, I have this. Have the same question.
Yeah.
So, should we need to give only public key there, or can it be given as a private key? Can we give the private key here?
No, you need to give your public key so that it will go and sit in Linux authorized file.
Okay.
So that it will allow it. It will recognize from your private key when you log in. It will identify this is a valid user, and it will identify it. You should give a public IP, public key, basically public cert.
Public certification, and can it have? I mean, the private. How many private keys we will be generating? I mean, if suppose in an organization, multiple users wants to use it. Yeah.
In idle world, we use other third-party tools. For example, Luminate. It's a from there itself you do a SSH login. Like this, you won't be doing it. You get authorized to a separate tool, Luminate. Usually, what we do is, if it is a small mid-level company, also one standard key we created, that it would be kept it in a key vault, and then whoever wants to have access it, if they have a proper access to a key vault, then only they can download it, and then they can try to log in with that particular key. There would be only one private key in order to access it in Terraform setup. But manually also you can think that you have a 10-member team. You can create a private, each all the 10 members can create their own private key, and then the public key you can attach it in, you can modify an authorized file, and you everyone can access it. But in product based company, or there would be only one key, because we wanted to have a proper control, because if you wanted to change it, there would be only one place, one change, so that it can be controlled properly.
So where the public key will be hosted, or who will be controlling that?
This public key would be, usually what we do is either we create a virtual machine. If we don't have a proper setup in order to create a certificate, then what we usually do is create a one virtual machine. In that virtual machine, you create all the certificate related to your project, private key or public key, and that particular key you can use it in your Terraform code. It need not be a hard-coded one. For this demo case, it is currently I have hard-coded it. Usually what we do is in our pipeline, we pick that particular file from key vault itself, private key as well as public key from key vault itself during our pipeline run.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
No problem.
Sangamesh, I mean, maybe when you have free time, would it be possible to have something demos around the real-time use cases? I mean, now we got it, how to create these things,
Yeah.
resources and everything. It would work for us, but when we go on working in that organization,
Yeah.
I mean, that is a completely black box to us, right? I mean, it is very difficult to understand how they really do the
Yeah.
process wise.
Yeah, you're right. This is the, I mean, yeah, I understand your point of view. I'll try to take that particular session in coming month. If you could see her
Yeah,
in
thanks,
any,
sir.
yeah, sure, I'll do that. Probably in either next session or coming up next session. I'll try to take in a proper IT industry how exactly it works, and which all the, some of the tools are paid tools. I'll try to get a demo version kind of a thing, and I'll try to showcase it how exactly it has to be done. So no problem. So if you someone asks 10 people if it is there, how exactly it can be done, right? So in this call around 21 people are there, right? So 21 people, if they generate their own private key and public key, what you need to do is, if it is a small company, okay, then each virtual box, go to this on the home folder itself. There is a .ssh folder is there, and then there is a authorized keys are there. Okay, so what you need to do is use VI or whatever editor you wanted to do it. Use it. Just add all the public key. This is mine one. Think that I have another team member. So in that case, what I would be doing is same thing. I would be copy pasting. If it is a small company, okay. If it is a bigger company, then it is a bit different. Okay, it is say Andy. Okay, I'll say some Andy user is, I think that yeah. So that user publicly I'll add it. You could achieve this adding of a bit in couple of ways. Using Ansible you can do it, or using Terraform also you can do this particular bit. If there are 10 are there, 10 entries would be there. Okay, so this is the file. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi. I have one question.
Yeah.
When you in the beginning, when we are connecting with Azure, you gave 4 details, right? Like subscription ID, AD ID. So there you created one certificate also. Like, was it a secret in the key vault that we need to create?
See, for this demo sake, I've kept it over here. So in ideal case, what will happen is all this Terraform code would be run in a pipeline, right? So this SP is created and kept it in a key vault. If it is a proper pipeline is running, then what we do is this particular variable value, we override it during a pipeline run. So during that time, we pick it from key vault and insert it during our pipeline journey.
Yeah, so instead of defining here, there will be some curl command with the Microsoft Azure keyword location.
Not a curl command. We have Azure. If you in Azure DevOps, we have a couple of ways you can do it. Either release classic deployment or YAML deployment. Using both the place, you can not using a curl. There are few tasks are there. You can pick it out, and during your pipeline run, you can.
Okay. Now the question main is like this particular client secret. So here it is allowing you to create the resources, means kind of a contributor role, right?
Correct.
Like,
yes.
So how that, but like, let's say that I'm trying to follow the same way which you followed. I'm not going to run it from the pipelines. I'm going to run it from this IntelliJ. Okay.
Yeah.
So like when I create the secret in the key vault, do I have to provide it some specific access, or will it by default allow me?
It will by default. I mean, currently I have given, while creating a secret, I haven't mentioned anything for authorization, but one second.
Does it goes by service principle?
Yeah, it's a service principle basically. It's a service principle, so automatically it has all the relevant access. If your question is, do you specify any IAM policies, RBAC policies? No, it's a service
Okay.
principle. It has all the.
So basically, when I create this, and if I use it in the Terraform script, I should be able to create the resources.
Yes, if you follow it, you should be able to do it. Yep.
Okay. And one other question I have, it is like not related to Terraform. So in virtual machine, when you created that snippet to create a VM, so there you gave the name, resource group, location, and all those things. Public IP, but there you gave the DNS IPs also, right?
No, DNS IP is not required with the virtual machine.
Yes.
With the network,
like where you gave the address space also there, right? There was a specific.
That is at the VNET level. VNET level, we provide a specific address space.
Correct. So sorry, I should say virtual network. So address space is something that we decide from our choice. But this DNS, from where we get this DNS?
This particular bit, right? That is what you're trying to say.
Right. Yeah, this one.
See, the thing is, address space and DNS, it is actually for your playing bit. You can give whatever you want, specific one, right? But in actual case, what will happen is there is a network team would be there. So that guys, you need to interact and get those, but a specific DNS IP server, because obviously you would be hosting it. Each company having their own DNS specific IP address. So that, because the routing and all those things, it will come into picture. So you need to contact your if you are working on a bigger project, then it is not the person who is developing it who decides it. It is at the org level. It has been decided, even the address space as well, because each VNet, it should not clash with some other address space. So if you are having a big project, there are many IP addresses are there. Many projects are running. Then obviously there would be a separate team would be there who manages who allots which address space, which team has to use it.
Okay, so maybe the networking team of the client or our company. Okay.
Correct. Usually these all the things, it is handled centrally, because it should not clash with some other team. Otherwise you would be facing a lot of issues during your pairing. All those issues you would be facing it.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. So what I will next command is basically, if you see here, our code is there. Okay, so these many resources are there. So obviously I don't want to pay it anymore. So I wanted to destroy it, right? So in the beauty of Terraform is you should be able to knock it down, because in many cases what we do is our work starts say 9 o'clock and ends up at evening 6 o'clock, right? So post that, no one is working on it, and why we need to pay Azure in order to sitting this these resources idle, right? So that is the reason in almost all the projects, what we do is we bring it down, we will destroy it, and morning there is a separate batch process will be running. Batch in the sense the Azure pipeline would be running it, it will recreate it. So that this process is called as a immutable architecture infrastructure. So it means n number of times any mistake happened or someone deliberately deleted it, you should be able to create your environment on a need basis, and you need not pay for night overnight charges towards your, or a weekend charges, or if there is any holidays there, right? So destroy is kind of a bit risky command, but it will delete everything. But over the same time, if think that someone is testing something, right, then you run a destroy command. So all the resource would be deleted. So that would be a bit of pain for others. But yeah, if the infrastructure is coded, so you can bring it back within half an hour or 1 hour time.
So what will happen if it's a global project? People are working across different time zones.
So if it is a global project, yeah, if it is a global project, when there should be obviously weekend guys won't be working on a weekend, right? So that is, I assume work-life balance is there in that particular project, right?
No, there are some mission critical applications, so it's applicable only for there are mission critical applications. Even the weekend also, the people need to be support. No,
agreed.
If any failure happens,
yeah, in that case, we created our pipelines in such a way that even a tester can run that pipeline and it will go and create an environment for you, right? So I understand if it is a 24/7 people are testing or working on a particular environment, then it doesn't make any sense to stop the server, right? Or if it is a 24/7 365 days people are using it, it doesn't make any sense to destroy it. Only in case if it is a thing that UK and India, there is only team is there only in UK and India, right? That overlapping period. Apart from that, whatever the time is there, right? So that during that time, why you need resources, right? So it's a cost cutting activities, basically.
Okay, there is an option we can disable it out or drop it out. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi Shantu. So how do we ensure that are we destroying the correct resources? I mean, since we have a multiple resource group.
Okay. Well, obviously, these all the things it would be running as a pipeline rather than the way I'm showing it for a beginners only. It is via code. From my laptop, I'm running it. So in idle proper project cases, it would be running from a pipeline itself. The pipeline proper naming convention would be there. So which one you should automatically, which one you should run it, you would be knowing about it. The pipeline name itself using Azure DevOps, right? So yeah, it won't be from your laptop for any human error.
Okay, maybe I understood this. First, we need to connect to the subscription ID and path, and then we need to initiate the destroy. Or I mean, so.
See, this is the place where it has been mentioned, where exactly it has to connect, and the data heart of this one is this particular TF state. So usually we want to keep this Terraform state in a local folder, because if you don't have it, if we both are working on the same project, if only in my laptop this TF state is there, you won't be able to add any new resource to the existing project. This particular state should be there on a backend. In this case, a storage account, right? In Azure case, we keep everything in a storage account. So with that storage account, if you wanted to add it, you can pull that. You can use the code using. You can modify this Terraform state in the storage itself at a runtime if you are using a laptop itself. So in that way, you can work it out. I hope if I haven't answered it, you can ask me again.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And if you are interested in to learn such kind of a content, so I have my own YouTube channel. Just subscribe to this particular channel so that you guys can see my content.